We said that we really wanted to use this platform to bring on strong, empowering, and inspiring women. That is you.
I know when I write my truth, it's not just mine. Like, it's so many people's.
Do you remember the moment when you thought, like, I need to do this album?
It really felt like I kind of settled into myself on this album. At some point, I just started reclaiming, like, all of these parts of myself I'd split off from. And music for me has always been genreless.
How have you taken charge of your own career, allowed yourself to grow and not just be what an industry expects you to be?
For me, these last, 10 years have really been about coming back into connection with me. We break your heart and heal it all in one breath. It's important for me to leave behind music like this in the world.
We were all doing it back in our 20s and we weren't being celebrated for it.
Persecution of the woman's gone on for too long. We don't have to agree, but we can still be loving.
When artists just sing from their heart and give us those lyrics from their heart, it's just like crazy how as a person you get drawn right into it. Like, even hearing you talk, I've had chills like 5 or 6 times. Do you remember the moment or where you were at when you thought, like, I need to do this album? I need to create God's work and these very inspiring, powerful songs?
When we go to start writing a record, I write everything down on a whiteboard. And when I wrote everything down on for this record, I realized that it looked like I was really questioning, like I said, the big questions of life, the duality of our nature as human beings, how within this life we've been kind of told that our humanity is our downfall, and reclaiming my humanity fully, and then also recognizing that we are incredibly holy beings at the same time. So it's really this dichotomy and duality that I explore on this album, and it seemed like God's work was, everything kind of fell under that umbrella. Like, if we're talking about, the light and the dark of creation, everything kind of falls under the title of God's work. And one of the things I've learned from being projected upon being in the public eye for so long is, there was one day that I remember realizing that it was like people's judgment of me has nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And the only way that it affects me is if I have that same judgment about myself. And so every time something hits me, it's like, ooh, that's not them, that's me. That it's like I look to where I'm still judging myself in that way and not giving myself grace. And so that's one of the biggest lessons that kind of like, I think, saved me mentally at one point, and really changed my life for sure.
I love that. For me, it was like, I always felt like I'd be misunderstood. And that was always something that would be so heavy on me. I'm like, they're not understanding me or my decisions or what I've done. And I think that's hard on a lot of us who live in the public eye, is that feeling of being misunderstood. Especially women our age, when you look back at what we did in our 20s, it was a different time and it wasn't accepted, and we got judged and we got shamed and we got all these things. And that's why I think it's so important, because it was like within these 20 years is when women really started to get their voice, and things that women do now, they're celebrated, but we were all doing it back in our 20s and we weren't being celebrated for it.
Yeah, absolutely. At some point I just started reclaiming, like, all of these parts of myself I'd split off from and becoming whole again. And so, what you see is what you get with me, and it's wonderful to be in that place. And I think my grit and my fight and all of that has been such an asset in this business and in my life and as a woman in this world. So yeah, I'm in a really good place. I think all the things we're told not to be, as women, we're taught to be small and in many ways, and to be quieter. And, for me, especially on this new album, like, there's anything but quiet. And I feel like this album is such a coming out for me in so many ways. And we start to have all of these, external, societal, parental voices that really start to shape who we are. And we start to lose sight of that voice inside of us. And for me, these last 10 years have really been about coming back into connection with me. And so I think that's what that song points towards. It's the surrendering to the process of every awakening, which is not easy to do, and then really finding the drive from the inside out instead of the external validation. So that's what I feel like, that's where I'm at 40. where it's, how does this make me feel? What are my values? What drives me from inside? There's actually a quote from the Scarlet Letter. She had not known the weight until she felt the freedom.